And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. Paul continues with his thoughts on the revealing of the Antichrist. He said that the Antichrist would not be revealed until after the rapture of the church. This is implied in the previous verses, and it will be implied again in the coming verses. Only then will Antichrist be revealed, and the world will enter the day of Christ, meaning the day of the Lord. But something is restraining that from occurring, something they have already been told about. This is reminded to them with the words, and you know now what is restraining. They already know. The words and now are not speaking of anything he has said in this letter, okay? He's obviously referring to what he's told them in the past. Instead, being in a temporal sense, the word now is being used in an introductory sense. They are being asked to call to memory what had already been told them. The reason for explaining it this way is because the church had been fooled. They had been misdirected. They had been duped by false information concerning and claiming that the day of Christ had come. The reminder now is that revealing of the Antichrist is actually purposefully hindered, and it would continue to be so until the right time had arrived. The words, what is restraining, are insufficient here. That's the translation of the New King James Version. There is a definite article in front of restraining in the Greek. This is not a mere doctrine that they were aware of, but rather a specific and familiar object. It should say that which is restraining. A known entity is restraining the coming of Antichrist, and the time for that entity to cease restraining will come as planned by God. And so there was absolutely no reason, get this straight, there was absolutely no reason for those in Thessalonica, and thus us, to speculate about having already entered the tribulation period. The truth holds for us even until this day. And yet, how many times have people claimed that the day of Christ, meaning the day of the Lord, has arrived? How many speculations about the tribulation period have been laid out in chart upon chart upon chart? But there is one restraining, and that will continue to be the case so that he, as Paul says, may be revealed in his own time. The he there is speaking of Antichrist. What is restraining the revealing of the Antichrist is not specifically mentioned, but it can be readily inferred based on several things in the verses to come. But suffice it to say that 1, the Antichrist is one who stands in opposition to Jesus. If this must be restrained for even 2,000 years now, it shows that even though Antichrist is a person, there is more involved. He is a person who will be specifically filled with Satan. And 2, if this could be given at any time, then there is a set time, known even 2,000 years ago, when this would come about. What could restrain Satan from so filling whatever person he chose for that long? Stay tuned. The words, that he might be revealed in his own time from Paul's hand, have the meaning of with a view to. What this means is that God's purposes will come about because the power of Antichrist will stop being restrained when he sees fit. God sees fit, that's when it's going to happen. Just as God ordained Israel to be exiled to Babylon 70 years, and he said it in advance, right? And then they were, and then exiled, and that exile ended as prophesied. Remember, Daniel picked up the book of Jeremiah and he read it, and it said 70 years you're going to be exiled, and then it'll end. And he said, Lord, it's been 70 years, time to send us home. Same thing here. Just as the same is true with the ending of the second exile at a pre-prophesied moment to effect his purposes, the ending of the restraint of the power which will be given to the Antichrist is intended to meet God's purposes for judgment on the unrepentant world. It is not for judgment on the church. The church is the bride of Christ. We are prepared as a virgin betrothed to one husband. A husband does not beat up his husband, his wife. LGBT, forget that. A husband does not beat up his wife unless he's a really bad husband, and we have the best husband of all, okay? The word translated as time indicates a set and purposeful time. It is a particular season. Just as Christ Jesus was said to have come in the fullness of times set by God, so Antichrist will come at a particular season to fulfill God's purposes.